Listen carefully. This story is not loud. It does not shout. It waits for you. Somewhere inside the place you call home, a silent decision was made years ago. A decision that never asked for permission. A decision that assumed time would erase memory. But time did not erase it. Time preserved it. Someone hid cash inside your house. Not outside. Not buried in the ground. Inside the walls that hear your breath. Inside the space that knows your footsteps. Inside the place that has watched you sit quietly when no one else was there. This is not about greed. This is about truth. Because money is never hidden without a reason. And when it is hidden inside a home, it means the hider trusted the house more than people. Pause for a moment. Think about your house. Not the furniture. Not the paint. The feeling. Every home has a heartbeat. Every home has places that are never questioned. Corners you never touch. Spaces you never inspect. Areas you assume are empty because they always have been. That is exactly where secrets sleep. The person who hid this cash believed one thing with absolute certainty. That no one would ever look there. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not even when the house changed hands. They counted on habit. They counted on routine. They counted on the human tendency to stop seeing what is always in front of them. And they were almost right. This money was not hidden in panic. It was hidden with patience. Carefully. Quietly. With hands that did not shake. The intention was simple. If everything else fails, this remains. But something went wrong. The person never came back for it. Life moved faster than their plan. Circumstances shifted. Promises broke. Time closed the door they thought would stay open. And the house kept the secret. Years passed. People laughed inside those walls. People cried inside those walls. Arguments happened. Silence happened. All while something waited. Money carries memory. It absorbs intention. And this money remembers why it was hidden. That is why this story feels personal. Because it is not about a house. It is about your house. At some point, someone stood exactly where you are standing now. They looked around. They chose a spot. And they said, "Here." Not because it was obvious, but because it was invisible. You walk past the exact area every day. You may even touch it. Lean against it, place objects near it, and you have never questioned it, because the most shocking hiding places are not clever, they are ordinary. This is not a fantasy. It has happened before, again and again, across different homes, different families, different lives. People renovate houses and suddenly freeze. People move furniture and stop breathing. People repair something small and uncover something life-changing. And every time, the reaction is the same. How was this here the whole time? The answer is simple. Because no one was meant to look. But now you are. Something brought you to this moment. Not curiosity, recognition. Because deep down, you already feel it. A quiet sense that something in your space does not belong to emptiness. In the next part, the silence will start to speak. Patterns will appear. And the first clue will surface, not as a location, but as a feeling you have ignored for years. Stay with this thought. Because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Now let me tell you something most people never realize. Hidden cash is never placed randomly. It always follows logic that only makes sense to the person who hid it. And that logic leaves traces. The first trace is not physical. It is emotional. Think back. Has there ever been a spot in your house that felt untouched by time? A place that feels older than the rest? Not broken. Not damaged. Just unchanged. That is important. Because when someone hides money inside a home, they choose a place that will not invite curiosity. Not today. Not years later. Not even during cleaning. They choose areas that humans mentally erase. Behind things that are always there. Inside spaces that feel finished. Near structures people assume cannot open. The cache was hidden close to something permanent. Something no one plans to replace. And here is the shocking truth. Most people search where they think treasure should be. But hidden cache is placed where no one believes money belongs. That is why it survives. Someone once stood inside your house and studied it quietly. They tested sounds. They checked visibility. They noticed what you never would. They asked one silent question. What will never be questioned? That answer became the spot. This is where patterns matter. Was there ever a sudden repair done in the house long before you lived there? Something fixed without explanation. Something that never needed fixing again. People hide money during transitions. Before leaving. Before change. Before uncertainty. They do it when emotions are heavy but hands are steady. And they leave behind something subtle. A tiny irregularity that looks normal because it has always been that way. This is why you cannot rush this story. Because the mind begins to connect dots only when it slows down. If this feels familiar, don't ignore that feeling. Pause here. Let it settle. Moments like this are not accidental. When a story mirrors your thoughts, it is asking for attention. And if at any point you feel this resonates, let that reaction exist. Quietly. Genuinely. Because others feel it too, even if they never say it out loud. Now listen carefully. The cache was not placed deep inside the house. And it was not placed out in the open. It was placed where two things meet. Where solid meets hollow. Where structure meets space. Where no one thinks to separate the two. Most people overlook these zones completely. They clean around them. They decorate over them. They live beside them. And the money stays still. In the next part, the exact category of places will become clear. Not the spot yet, but the type of spot. And once you recognize that category, your house will feel different forever. Stay here. Because this is where remembering begins. Now the house begins to answer you. Not with sound. With memory. Every hidden thing leaves behind a disturbance in balance. A place where the house learned to hold its breath. The category matters now. The money was not hidden in a room you show guests. It was not hidden where beauty matters. It was hidden where function ends and thought stops. People hide cash where their hands already go, but where their eyes never stay. This narrows everything. Think of parts of your house that serve one single purpose. They exist to be there, not to be noticed, not to be admired. Once installed, they become invisible. These places share a strange trait. They feel final. No one imagines opening them. No one imagines checking behind them. No one imagines there could be space there at all. That assumption is the lock. The person who hid the money understood one uncomfortable truth. Humans stop questioning what looks complete. So they chose a place that appears finished forever. Here is something that will change how you see your home. The spot is not high-value space. It is not storage space. It is not secret space. It is dead space. Areas created by construction, not intention. Spaces formed as a byproduct, not a feature. Most people do not even know these spaces exist. And yet, they are everywhere. Behind fixed surfaces. Inside boundaries. Between layers. These are the places no one checks because no one thinks they can open. But they can. Someone once discovered cash while replacing something they never thought would be removed. Another found it when a small sound felt wrong. Another when something shifted by accident. Each time, the discovery felt unreal. Because the money was not hidden. It was waiting. Waiting for the moment the house changed its mind. If your heart is racing right now, that matters. Because instinct recognizes patterns before logic does. This is not about tearing your house apart. This is about awareness. Walk through your space mentally, not as an owner, as a stranger. What looks permanent? What looks sealed? What looks like it was never meant to be touched again? Those are the zones. The person who hid the cash trusted these zones more than banks, more than people, more than time. And they were right, until now. Because in the next part, the exact behavior that reveals the spot will be exposed. A small sign, a tiny inconsistency, something you have seen before but never questioned. Stay with this, because once the sign is revealed, you will know where to look. Now the house reveals the final truth. There is always a sign. Always. Not dramatic. Not obvious. So small that the mind edits it out. The sign is not damage. It is difference. A surface that sounds slightly different when touched. A panel that feels heavier than it should. A section that does not react like the rest. People miss this because they expect secrets to announce themselves. They never do. Hidden cash demands silence. The person who placed it understood something deeply human. We trust symmetry. We trust repetition. We trust what looks the same every day. So they broke the pattern just enough to hide inside it. Here is the once, in, a, lifetime truth. The exact spot is not chosen for secrecy. It is chosen for neglect. The place where your attention never lingers. The place you pass without thought. The place your hands brush but your mind never enters. That is where value waits. And the most shocking part? The money is not alone. It is usually wrapped, protected, separated from moisture because and the hider expected one thing. That someday, someone like you would feel something was off. That someone would pause, listen, notice. That moment is now. You do not need tools. You do not need force. You need awareness. Because the house already knows where it is. And now, so do you. The silence you feel right now is not empty. It is recognition. This story stays with people because it changes how they see their own space. And once you see it, you cannot go back. If this moment stays with you, let it stay. If it feels personal, that is not coincidence. Others feel it too, even if they never say it. Carry this awareness with you. Walk through your house slowly, not searching, listening, because some secrets do not want to be found loudly. They want to be noticed. And when you finally stand in front of the exact spot, you will understand why it waited for you. What happens after the discovery is rarely spoken about, because the real shock is not the money, it is the realization that your life has been unfolding inches away from something that never moved, something that watched seasons pass, something that listened while decisions were made, worries were carried, hopes were whispered. Hidden cash does not just change finances, it changes memory. People who find it often say the same thing. I walked past this place every day. That sentence carries weight, because it means the house was always closer to you than you thought. It means answers sometimes wait quietly instead of chasing you. The person who hid it believed in stillness. They believe that the safest place is not far away. It is right where everything feels normal. That belief shaped everything. The money was placed where life continues uninterrupted, where no one pauses, where no one questions. And that is why this story does not end with discovery. It begins there. Once something hidden is revealed, perspective shifts. You stop rushing. You stop assuming. You start noticing. The walls feel different. The silence feels meaningful. The house feels aware. Because now you understand something most people never do. That value does not always announce itself. Sometimes it waits for the right awareness. This is why this story stays with you long after it ends. Because it is not about cash. It is about attention. What else in your life have you walked past every day without seeing? What else has been waiting quietly while you searched elsewhere? The house taught one final lesson. What is meant for you does not always come loudly. Sometimes it stays still until you are ready to notice it. Carry that thought with you, not as excitement, as clarity, because once you understand this, you never look at familiar places the same way again. After the silence settles, something unexpected happens. Not excitement, understanding. Because the moment you truly grasp this story, it reaches beyond walls and rooms. It reaches into how you live. The hidden cache was never meant to rush into your life. It was meant to wait until you slowed down enough to notice. That is the uncomfortable truth. People search everywhere for change. They move. They chase. They push. But the house shows a different path. What is meant for you often stays close. So close that it becomes invisible. This is why the discovery feels unreal. Because it arrives without noise, without announcement. And when it does, you realize something powerful. That patience leaves traces, and stillness protects value. The person who hid it trusted time more than speed. They trusted the ordinary more than the dramatic. And now you see why. Nothing about the spot demanded attention. That was the design. Nothing about the place called for inspection. That was the protection. The shock is not that it was hidden. The shock is that it survived. Years of footsteps, years of voices, years of change, all while remaining untouched. This changes how you move forward, because once you understand this pattern, you begin to see it everywhere. In relationships you overlooked, in opportunities you dismissed, in moments you rushed past. The house becomes a mirror. It reflects a simple truth. Not everything valuable arrives loudly. Some things wait for readiness. If this story has held you here, it is because part of you recognizes that truth. You are not just listening. You are remembering. Carry this awareness gently. There is no rush, no demand, just a quiet shift in how you see what surrounds you. Because sometimes, the most powerful discoveries are not new. They have been with you the whole time. There is a reason this story refuses to leave your mind. Because it quietly changes the way you trust your surroundings. And more importantly, the way you trust yourself. The hidden cache was never just an object. It was a reminder that awareness alters reality. The house did not change. The moment understanding arrived, everything familiar became meaningful. Every corner felt intentional. Every silence felt alive. This is how lasting stories end. Not with noise, with recognition. The person who hid the money never expected applause. They expected survival. They believed that what is protected by stillness lasts longer than what is chased. And they were right. The true shock is not the discovery. It is the lesson it leaves behind. That the answers you seek are often closer than you think. That patience is not empty time. That what belongs to you will not miss you. This is why you stayed until now. Not curiosity. Alignment. Because part of you understands that life works quietly. It does not beg for attention. It waits for awareness. Let this story rest inside you. Not as excitement. As clarity. The house has spoken. The message is simple. Look again at what you think you already know. Because sometimes, everything changes the moment you truly see. Before this story truly ends, one final layer remains. Because every hidden thing carries an echo. And that echo lingers long after discovery. People often think the moment is over once the secret is known. It is not. It quietly continues. After awareness arrives, the house feels different at night. Not frightening. Honest. You become aware of how much life happens without announcement. How many answers exist before questions are fully formed. The hidden cache was a message written in silence. A reminder that certainty is not always loud. That protection can look like neglect. That value often hides inside what we stop noticing. This is why this story holds you. Because it touches something universal. Everyone has passed something important without seeing it. Everyone has lived close to an answer they assumed was elsewhere. The house simply made that truth visible. Now, as you move forward, the lesson remains. Slow down when something feels ordinary. Listen when silence feels full. Notice what does not demand your attention. Because sometimes, the most shocking revelations are not dramatic. They are patient. And when they finally reveal themselves, they do not rush into your life. They settle into it. This story ends here, but the awareness it created does not. It stays with you, quietly. There is one last truth that most people never hear. The house did not keep the secret by accident. It kept it. Because secrets choose their guardians. Some places are built to be lived in. Others are built to remember. The cache remained untouched not because it was hidden well, but because the timing was not right. Everything has a moment when it allows itself to be found. Not before. Not after. That is why this story feels complete only now. Because understanding has reached its final shape. You no longer feel urgency. You feel certainty. The discovery does not shout victory. It whispers alignment. The house trusted patience. The secret trusted time. And awareness became the key. This is the kind of realization that does not fade. It quietly adjusts how you move through life. You stop forcing outcomes. You stop overlooking the familiar. You start noticing what stays. Because the greatest shock was never the hidden cache. It was the realization that what matters most often stays closest. And when it finally reveals itself, it feels less like surprise and more like recognition. That is how true discoveries end. Not with noise. With calm understanding. This moment stays with you. Because it was never just a story. It was a reminder. And now, everything becomes quiet. Not empty. Complete. Because the final realization settles in gently. Nothing was missing. Nothing was late. The house did exactly what it was meant to do. It held. It waited. It protected. The hidden cache was never a miracle. It was a message written in patience. A reminder that not everything meant for you arrives through struggle. Some things arrive through stillness. This is why the story ends without drama. Because the strongest truths do not need it. You understand now that awareness is not something you chase. It arrives when you are ready to see. The house did not change your future. It revealed how the present already held more than you realized. And that understanding stays long after this moment passes. You will walk through familiar spaces differently now. You will pause where you once rushed. You will notice what once blended into the background. You may think the story has already ended. But there is a reason you are still here. Because some realizations do not arrive all at once. They unfold slowly, like light adjusting in a familiar room. After everything settles, one question remains. Why this house? Why this moment? Hidden things are never placed without intuition. The person who hid the cache did not choose randomly. They chose a space that felt right. A space that felt safe. A space that felt steady. That matters. Because stability attracts trust. And trust attracts value. Your house carried that trust. It carried weight without showing it. It carried memory without noise. This is why the discovery does not feel disruptive. It feels aligned. Nothing feels forced. Nothing feels rushed. It feels like something returning to where it belongs. And that is the final shock. That what was hidden was never lost. It was preserved. Preserved by routine. Preserved by familiarity. Preserved by your presence. The house did not keep the secret from you. It kept it for you. That understanding changes everything. Because once you realize this, you stop seeing your space as ordinary. You start seeing it as aware. Every step you take now feels intentional. Every pause feels meaningful. Not because something else is hidden, but because you learned how to notice. This is not the end of a story. It is the beginning of a quieter way of seeing. And that stays with you. There is a quiet shift that happens now. Not in the house. In you. Because once you understand this story, you realize something deeper than discovery. You realize why you were able to see it at all. Most people live inside their spaces without ever listening to them. They exist. They rush. They assume. But awareness changes access. The hidden cache did not reveal itself because it wanted attention. It revealed itself because attention finally arrived. That is the final layer. Nothing meaningful enters your life by force. It enters through readiness. The house was never hiding something from you. It was waiting for you to notice what was already there. This is why the story feels complete but not finished. Because the lesson moves forward with you. You will begin to trust subtle instincts more. You will pause instead of rushing past what feels ordinary. You will listen when silence feels intentional. And that awareness becomes valuable in ways money never could. The greatest revelation was not inside the walls. It was inside perception. What stays with you now is clarity, calm, a deeper sense of alignment. And that is why this story works. Because it does not end loudly. It settles, quietly. What stays after everything is understood is not excitement. It is precision. You begin to notice how rarely life wastes space. How often meaning hides inside what looks settled. The house was never special because of what it held. It became special because of what it taught. That permanence does not mean emptiness. That silence does not mean absence. That stillness often means protection. This is why the memory of this story stays sharp. Because it rewires attention. You stop asking only loud questions. You start listening for quiet answers. The person who hid the cache trusted one thing completely. That time would test everything except what was placed correctly. And they were right. The house endured because it was ordinary. Because no one suspected it. Because nothing about it demanded explanation. That is how many truths survive. They blend in. They wait. They remain. This is the final gift of the story. Not the idea of hidden money, but the understanding that value often lives inside what you stop examining. You do not need to search harder. You need to see differently. And once that shift happens, nothing familiar ever feels empty again. That awareness does not fade. It settles into you, quiet, certain. At this point, the story is no longer outside you. It has moved inward. Because the strongest stories do not end with answers. They end with a changed way of seeing. You now understand something most people never pause to realize. That familiarity can hide depth. That routine can protect value. That what feels permanent may still hold intention. The house was not extraordinary. That was its strength. Nothing about it demanded attention. Nothing about it invited inspection. And that is why it succeeded. This is how many important things survive in life. By not asking to be noticed. The hidden cache simply followed that rule. And once you understand this, you recognize the pattern everywhere. In conversations that mattered more than you realized. In moments you dismissed because they felt ordinary. In paths you walked without questioning. The revelation does not rush you. It steadies you. Because now you know that what is meant to last does not compete for attention. It waits for readiness. The house did not surprise you. And that trust changed the way you move forward. This is why the story remains powerful even after it ends. Because it leaves behind clarity, not noise. You do not walk away from it excited. You walk away from it aware. And that awareness stays. There is one final shift that happens here. It is subtle, but permanent. You stop asking, what else is hidden? And you start asking, What else have I ignored? Because this story quietly proves something powerful. That attention is not about effort. It is about presence. The house did not reward searching. It responded to noticing. That distinction matters. So many people exhaust themselves looking outward. They believe value must be distant, complicated, hard to reach. But this story dismantles that belief without force. It shows that meaning often settles where life feels stable, where days repeat, where nothing dramatic happens. That is where patience accumulates. The hidden cache was simply proof of a larger truth, that what is meant to endure chooses quiet environments. And once you recognize that, you stop rushing through familiar spaces. You stop dismissing ordinary moments, because you understand now that stillness is not empty, it is selective. The story does not leave you with excitement, it leaves you with grounding, a sense that life is not withholding from you, it is waiting for alignment. And alignment does not arrive with noise, it arrives with clarity. This is why the memory of this story lingers. Because it reframes everything you thought you knew about value. Not louder, not farther, closer, calmer, already there. That understanding stays with you, long after the words end. By now, something inside you has settled. Not curiosity, certainty. You no longer feel the need to search for proof, because understanding has replaced doubt. The house did not reveal a secret. It revealed a pattern that repeats quietly in life. What is meant to stay does not compete, it integrates. The hidden cache was never separate from the house. It became part of it, just as meaning becomes part of routine when it is meant to last. This is why the discovery feels natural, not disruptive. It does not pull you out of your life, it fits into it. And that is the final strength of this story. It does not promise change through chaos. It shows change through awareness. You move differently now. You pause longer. You listen more. Because you understand that what matters rarely interrupts. It waits. The house did not rush you. It did not demand attention. It trusted timing. And that trust was not misplaced. This story leaves you with something rare. Not excitement. Not suspense. Confidence in stillness. And once you carry that, nothing familiar ever feels meaningless again. That is where this story rests. There is a quiet confidence that remains now. Not excitement. Not surprise. Understanding. Because this story was never meant to rush you toward a conclusion. It was meant to slow you down until clarity arrived on its own. You now see why nothing felt accidental. Why every detail settled instead of exploded. Why the revelation felt calm instead of overwhelming. The house did not create meaning. It revealed how meaning already lives inside what feels ordinary. That realization stays. You stop expecting important moments to announce themselves. You stop believing value must arrive dramatically. You begin to trust what remains consistent. The hidden cache was proof of something deeper. That stability attracts preservation. That patience protects what matters. And once you understand this, you carry it forward quietly. Into choices. Into relationships. Into moments you once rushed through. This is how true awareness works. It does not demand attention. It reshapes perception. The story does not end with answers. It ends with alignment. And alignment does not fade. It settles. At this stage, the story no longer feels like a story. It feels like a memory you did not know you had. Because what you have been listening to is not about a house. It is about recognition. The hidden cache was simply the doorway. The awareness was the destination. You now understand why nothing needed urgency. Why nothing demanded action. Why the silence felt complete. The house did not ask to be understood. It allowed itself to be understood when readiness arrived. That is how meaningful things reveal themselves. Without pressure. Without noise. This is why the realization feels lasting. Because it did not excite you. It grounded you. You begin to trust what stays consistent. You begin to respect what does not call for attention. You begin to see stability as strength. The hidden cash was never the reward. Clarity was. And clarity does not fade when the moment passes. It becomes part of how you see. This story ends without an ending. Because what it gave you continues. Now quietly. The meaning becomes unmistakable. You realize that nothing truly valuable rushes into your life. It settles. It waits. It stays quiet until you are ready to notice it. The house was never guarding money. It was guarding timing. Everything aligned not because of chance, but because awareness finally met patience. This is why the story feels complete without closure. Because it did not give you something new. It returned something you already had. A sense of trust. A sense of calm. A sense that life is not hiding things from you. It is revealing them in its own order. Once you see this, you stop feeling behind. You stop feeling late. You stop feeling like something is missing. Because you understand now. What belongs to you does not escape you. It remains close. It remains steady. The house taught this lesson without words. And that is why it stays with you. Not as a surprise. As certainty. This is where the story rests. This is the moment everything settles into place. Not as a conclusion. As understanding. You no longer feel the need to explain what this story meant. Because meaning has already rooted itself. The house did not change your circumstances. It changed your perspective. And perspective is the quiet force that shapes everything. The hidden cash was a symbol, not a destination. It pointed to a truth deeper than possession. That what is meant for you does not require struggle. It requires awareness. This is why the story never demanded excitement. It invited presence. Now, when you think back to it, you will not remember a dramatic discovery. You will remember a shift, a subtle clarity, a calm recognition, because the most powerful revelations do not overwhelm. They align. And alignment feels natural, unforced, complete. This is where the story leaves you. Not searching, not questioning, seeing. There is a stillness now that feels earned. Not silence from emptiness, silence from knowing. Because when a truth settles completely, it stops asking questions. It simply exists. You understand now why this story never tried to impress you. Why it never rushed toward spectacle. Why it trusted patience more than surprise. The house did not offer proof. It offered perspective. And perspective lasts longer than any discovery. You begin to notice how often life speaks this way. Softly. Repeatedly. Without urgency. The most important things rarely demand attention. They wait until attention is ready. That is what the hidden cash represented. Not sudden gain, but quiet alignment. Once this understanding takes hold, you stop fearing that something important will pass you by, because you realize it cannot. What belongs to you remains within reach. Not chasing, not hiding, waiting. This story leaves you with calm awareness. A sense that nothing essential is missing. Nothing is late. Everything is simply unfolding at its own pace. And that realization stays with you. What remains now is clarity without effort. You are no longer waiting for something to happen. You are aware of what already is. This is the quiet power of the story. It did not give you instructions. It gave you vision. The house never asked to be examined. It allowed itself to be understood. And that difference matters. Because when understanding arrives naturally, it stays. It does not fade when the moment passes. It integrates. You begin to sense how often life works this way. How answers exist long before questions feel urgent. How value rests inside what feels stable. The hidden cash was never about luck. It was about placement. Placed in patience. placed in routine, placed where time could not disturb it. And that is the final realization. What is meant to remain chooses environments of calm. It chooses familiarity. It chooses quiet. This is why the story feels complete without drama. Because drama is temporary. Awareness is lasting. You do not leave this moment excited. You leave it centered. And that is the strongest ending a story can give. Now the story becomes something else. It becomes a reference point. Whenever life feels rushed, this memory returns. Not loudly, gently. You remember that nothing meaningful needed to hurry. That nothing valuable demanded force. That the house held its secret simply by staying still. And that realization reshapes how you respond to the world. You stop confusing urgency with importance. You stop mistaking noise for truth. You begin to trust what remains steady. The hidden cache was not dramatic. It was deliberate. Placed where chaos could not reach it. Placed where attention rarely goes. Placed where time could pass without damage. That is how lasting things survive. And now, that understanding lives with you. You do not need to explain it to anyone. You do not need to prove it. You simply recognize it when you see it. In moments that feel quiet but right. In choices that feel calm but certain. In places that feel ordinary but full. This is where the story truly settles. Not as an ending. As a way of seeing. At this point, the story has done its work. Not by adding anything. By removing distraction. You no longer feel pulled toward what is loud or urgent. You feel anchored to what is steady. Because the house showed something rare. That endurance is quiet. That preservation does not announce itself. That what lasts chooses calm environments. The hidden cache was never chasing a future. It was resting inside certainty. And that truth reshapes how you move forward. You begin to notice how often life protects what matters by making it ordinary. How many important things survive precisely because they do not demand attention. This awareness sharpens gently. It does not overwhelm. It clarifies. You stop overlooking what feels familiar. You stop assuming nothing important could be there. Because now you know better. The story does not echo as surprise. It echoes as grounding. A reminder that value often waits where you already stand. That meaning often lives inside what you trust most. And that realization stays with you. Quiet, steady, unshakable. What remains now is not curiosity. It is trust. Trust in stillness. Trust in timing. Trust in what stays. Because the story has quietly proven something that words rarely explain well. That life does not hide what matters. It protects it. The house did not guard the secret by force. It guarded it by familiarity. And that lesson settles deeply. You begin to notice how often what truly supports you has been present all along. Not dramatic. Not demanding. Just reliable. The hidden cache was never the reward. It was the confirmation. Confirmation that patience preserves. That calm environments hold value. That what is meant to last does not rush toward attention. This understanding changes how you stand in the world. You feel less hurried, less uncertain, because you realize now that nothing essential is running away from you. It is staying close, waiting quietly. The story does not end with a reveal. It ends with confidence. Confidence that you do not need to chase meaning. You only need to recognize it. And once you do, everything familiar begins to feel full. There is a calm certainty now that does not ask to be tested. Because the story has finished teaching, you understand that what truly matters does not compete for your attention. It settles into your life and waits for you to notice. The house was never hiding anything from you. It was cooperating with time. That cooperation is the quiet strength behind everything that lasts. You begin to sense how often life does this. How stability becomes invisible. How reliability is mistaken for emptiness. But now you see the difference. The hidden cache did not arrive as a surprise. It arrived as confirmation. Confirmation that patience is not passive. It is protective. This awareness changes your pace. You move with less urgency. You listen more closely. Because you know now that meaning does not need to shout. It needs space. The story leaves you exactly here. Centered. Grounded. Not looking for more. Not waiting for proof. Simply aware that what is meant for you remains where it belongs. Close. Quiet. Unmoved by time. By now, the story has become a quiet companion. Not something you think about constantly. Something that stays with you. It reminds you that certainty does not arrive with force. It arrives with alignment. The house never asked for belief. It demonstrated truth through time. And that truth is simple. What is meant to remain will not rush. What is meant to last will not beg for attention. The hidden cache was not an exception. It was an example. An example of how life protects what matters by making it blend in. By letting it become part of the background. By trusting familiarity to do the guarding. This understanding settles deeper now. You stop doubting quiet choices. You stop overlooking calm answers. Because you recognize something important. That peace is not absence. It is presence without noise. The story leaves you here. Not searching. Not expecting. Aware that the most powerful things in your life may already be standing right where you are. Unnoticed. Unmoved. Waiting for nothing at all.